As Director of Schools, regardless of the conference, it's such an incredible moment when your students do you really proud. So just a real honour and a privilege. It's the first time that I've been at an event like this where our students have performed, and I've got goose pimples, I must say, so I just want to express that pride. It's a real honour for me to introduce our special guest of honour formally, Mr. Ziyad Almaayouf, and a background to his incredible and impressive career for those who are not aware of it. Widely known as Saudi Arabia's first professional boxer, born in Saudi Arabia and now fighting out of Los Angeles, Ziyad's pro record is currently undefeated. There might be opportunities for that to change over the course of the next couple of days. Let's see how we do. He's gained rapid international attention, not just for his performance in the ring, but for what he represents. A pioneer opening doors for combat sports in the kingdom. Beyond his athletic achievement, Ziyad sees himself as a figure of inspiration for young Saudis, someone who's turning skepticism and lack of precedent into legacy under Saudi Vision 2030. A true trailblazer. Welcome to the stage, Ziyad Almaayouf.
Some introduction, to be honest. You see, when you're the first to do something, you learn that your best teacher and your only teacher is resilience. You see, resilience isn't in how we break and rebuild. Resilience is in how far can you bend without breaking, and how much stronger can you rebuild if you break. Resilience isn't rare. Resilience isn't unique. It's a system built on 4 forms: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. They all link to each other, they all connect to each other, and they all impact each other. In psychology, resilience is the ability to adapt and recover from stress. It's the fight and communication between your emotional brain and your thinking brain. Your emotional brain won't ever change. It will always give you the same warning signs. It will always give you the same emotions, the same feelings, the same thoughts. That's its job. It's for survival. But your thinking brain, you train it how to think. You train your thinking brain how to think, how to feel, how to react to specific situations and scenarios. And so in life, when you are put in struggling moments, every single time you react to those specific situations, every time you feel an emotion, every time you think a thought, your brain rewires a new neural pathway and saves it in your system and tells your body that this is the go-to reaction for this situation, or for this scenario, or for this moment. And we call that neuroplasticity in neuroscience. And it only takes one different reaction, just one time, for your brain to save a new path, for your brain to carve a new neural pathway and says, hold on, there's a new way now that we deal with this. There's a new emotion now. There's a new feeling now that we think of this specific situation. And that all leads and starts with your physical resilience. Your physical resilience is your body's ability to endure, recover, and come back stronger. It's like how muscles grow. Muscles grow from stress that causes tear in the muscle. That stress plus the rest leads to growth. You can't take away the rest and just keep the stress and expect growth. And you can't take away the stress and just leave the rest and expect growth. It's the same with our nervous system. You need to train the nervous system. You need to sleep well, hydrate, move, but more importantly, even breathe intentionally. It's the fastest and best way to calm down your nervous system. Then you think a lot clearer in moments of struggle and in moments that need resilience. Many of you here think that when you see a professional boxer fight on fight night, under the bright lights for 45 minutes, that's the fight. This is the easiest fight. This is only the tip of the iceberg. It's the peak of the mountain. For every fight, in case you didn't know, we train for a minimum of 2 months in training camp for a 45-minute fight, for 12 rounds. A minimum of 2 months in training camp where we train twice and 3 times a day, where we lose tremendous amounts of weight, where we face pressure, doubt, fear, worry, and stress. And because the body's tired, it's not recovered well, it's not sleeping well, we go into a state in what we call negative energy balance. When you are on a negative energy balance because you're tired, you didn't sleep well, you're losing weight for an extended period of time, everything in your body goes on negative energy. Your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings. And so it becomes a lot harder to feed yourself positive thoughts. It becomes a lot harder to feed yourself positive emotions, and it becomes a lot harder to have a positive spirit. So a tired body creates a tired mind, which then builds onto your mental resilience. Your mental resilience is how you think when things go wrong. In psychology, we have a term that we call growth mindset. Growth mindset is how you view failure when it happens to you, how you view the mistakes. For many of us here, even myself sometimes, I view failure as a sign that I am not enough. When we need to change that perspective and start viewing failure as a sign of what you need to do to become enough. It's just a slight difference in perspective. View failure as feedback in what you need to do to become enough. Reframe your thoughts. Reframe your thoughts when you go through moments of struggle that require resilience. Instead of always thinking it's happening to you, why don't you think it's happening for you? Because every single time we've gone through something that we thought was happening to us, weeks pass by, months pass by, years pass by, and we look back and we say, we're so glad that happened. It was happening for us. It was all going in our favor. So it's not happening to you, it's always happening for you. And yes, we can't see the future and we can't jump to the future, but there is a way to mentally set yourself up for specific scenarios and situations and how you will react to them in the future. It's called visualization. The art of visualization is how you can mentally and vividly rehearse a specific situation so well that the brain actually thinks you're living it. MRI scans actually show that when you start vividly mentally rehearsing a specific situations, the same neural pathways actually switch on. The muscles twitch the same way. The central nervous system activates the same way. Even the adrenaline rush is the same. Without actually being there, you're just mentally rehearsing it. But here's the trick with visualization. You can't only visualize things going your way. You have to visualize things going your way and things not going your way. But in either scenario, you always have to visualize the positive outcome. If things do go your way, you visualize yourself keeping it. You visualize yourself handling it. And if things don't go your way and you fail and you make the mistakes, you visualize yourself coming back from it. You visualize yourself building on it. You visualize yourself coming back stronger. So visualize things going your way and not going your way. You must. It prepares you for specific actions and scenarios. But your reaction always has to be the positive recovery. And that makes your emotional resilience bulletproof. And what emotional resilience is, it's the ability to feel without falling apart. I ask all of you here today, whenever you go through moments of struggle and situations that ask of resilience, and you feel it emotionally, just remember it by this one phrase: feel without falling. Because for some reason, we always think that in order not to fall, we have to stop feeling. And then later on in life, we discover that the best way to stay standing is to start feeling. And the easiest way to fall is to stop feeling. So you need to start embracing all of your emotions. Accept all of your emotions. The only way to get through something is to go through something. And the only way you'll go through it is if you go through all the emotions that come with it. I'm not asking you to understand the emotions. I'm not asking you to go and dig through the root of the emotions. But I'm asking you to just let them be. Let them come. Accept them. Know that it's part of the process of coming back and recovering. Because the more you run after an emotion, the more it will always run after you. And then that creates self-compassion. When you're compassionate with how you feel and compassionate with how you might go through things, you then become a lot more patient. You think a lot clearer. And for some reason, again, when we go through something, what surprises us isn't the problem. It's the shock of the problem that really shocks us. And the first thing we love to do is to compare it to people. We love to compare what we are going through to someone else who's going through it. And we always compare it to the people who are doing faster, who are doing it faster than us, who've went through it faster than us. Because for some reason we think that faster means better and slower means worse. And then all of a sudden we start feeling like we're going through this at a very slow pace. And we're going through this in a very bad way. When your pace is the best way. And we only know how fast or slow someone else went through it. We never know that faster means better and slower means worse. Sometimes slower means better and faster means worse. But one thing for sure is that your pace is the best pace. Becoming the first ever professional boxer from Saudi Arabia, such a powerful place like the kingdom, with Vision 2030, all of the reforms, and what we're trying to achieve globally, internationally, every single time I fight, all eyes are on me. The international media, the global media, the international audience, they've never seen a Saudi fighter before. And Saudi Arabia has its lovers, has its haters, has its supporters, has its doubters, and I get to stand for that when I fight. Our first 5 fights to 10 fights in professional boxing are called the developmental fights. So the mistakes that other champions today were making in their first 5 to 10 fights that flew under the radar because they weren't fighting with as much attraction, I went through the same mistakes in my first 5 to 10 fights, which is expected, but in front of thousands, tens of thousands in attendance, and millions watching around the world. What that came with was tremendous criticism. As much love as I got from everyone, as much hate as I got from some. As much support as I got from everyone, as much criticism that I got from many. But what I learned is never take criticism from anyone you wouldn't go for advice from. Never take criticism from anyone who you wouldn't ask advice from. And that kind of sets you on your own path. You have the people who are close to you. You have the people who are around you. They know what you've been through. They know how well you train, how much work you put in. They know how realistic your dreams are. The worst thing to do is to have yes men around you, but if you have the right people around you, they will stop you and they will tell you the truth when you need to. But others won't do that. Because then, that brings us to our spiritual resilience. That's your why. That's your purpose. That's your heart. And your spiritual resilience has to be your first line of defense, your last line of defense, and your strongest line of defense. Because one thing people love more than seeing you fail and make mistakes is to see your spirit get broken. Is to see your spirit get broken, because once your spirit is broken, you give up. You never come back. You never rebuild stronger. You never show signs of resilience. That's it. And that's why there's a quote that says, one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fall and die trying. People don't like to see the hero fall and die trying, just to see him fall and try to come back. They want to see what he's going to do. They want to see what they are going to do to come back. They want to see if they will come back. They want to see how resilient they will be. And then they want to see how much stronger will this person come back. And you only become a hero when you come back after falling, not when you fall down. But you need to train your spiritual resistance. You need to train your spiritual resilience. You have to train it well. You have to train your values. Practice gratitude. Control your thoughts. And I'll give you an exercise here today. If there's one exercise I want you to listen very well to and try it when you go back home, it's this one. It's called the open notebook exercise. This exercise, I'm not kidding when I say this, saved my life. You're going to have two notebooks. One called the gratitude notebook, one called the thoughts notebook. In both cases, the exercise is called the open notebook exercise because you will place this notebook in a strategic place at your home that you could always see wherever you go. And it's very important this notebook stays open. It's a small trick, but it matters a lot to your mind. Because when this notebook always stays open and it's in a strategic place at your home that you could always see, it's a reminder to participate. And it just being open is a reminder to always think about what you will participate with. So in the gratitude notebook, whenever you feel grateful for something, you go write it down straight away. I'm not saying at the beginning of the day. I'm not saying at the end of the day. I'm saying as soon as you feel it, you go and write it down. What that makes you do is you're always actively thinking about what you're grateful for. And when you feel it, you write it down. It becomes stronger when we write things down. And gratitude is the first point of receiving. Then you have the other notebook, the thoughts notebook. What you will do in that notebook is the same exact thing. In a strategic place at your home, it always stays open, so you always remember to participate. You will split your page in half in that notebook. The first half, you're going to write down your negative thoughts. The second half, you're going to write what you can do about them. What you will find is many of the negative thoughts you can do something about, so they're gone. You can't control them. And then you will find that the remaining negative thoughts you can't do anything about, so you can't control them, so they should be gone too. Any negative thought that you can't control, you can't do anything about, shouldn't even be there. And we sometimes only realize that when we tackle each thought by itself. When you are thinking of the thoughts to build that unstoppable spiritual resistance, that spiritual resilience, I want you to practice a theory that I call the time traveler theory. With the time traveler theory, when you're thinking about your thoughts, and you're met with a struggling moment, I want you to think for yourself, do I have to travel in time to fix it? Do I have to travel in time to change it? And if the answer is in any way yes, then you can't control it. And what that brings you to do is you become self-aware and you come back to the present. And guess what? In the present you can change, you can fix, and you can control everything. You can control, change, fix your emotions. You can control, change, and fix anything you're grateful for. You can enjoy it all. And then in the present, you get to fix your past and you get to change your future. But the time traveler theory reminds you of that. Never let the external mess with the internal. So much is going to happen on the outside. So many people are going to talk, so many people are going to try to bring you down, but the inside has to be different. There was a research done on the world's highest achievers, and they found one trait that separates the good from the great. And it wasn't discipline, it wasn't motivation, and it wasn't talent. It was grit. Grit is the combination of passion and perseverance in the absence of motivation, talent, hard work, and discipline. Passion and perseverance is what makes grit, yes, but it only goes hand in hand with a very important character trait that we think we're either born with or we're not. We either have or we don't. And that character trait is optimism. Many of us here, sitting here today, even myself a few years ago, I thought you're either born optimistic or you're born a pessimist. You're either thinking positive or you're thinking negative all the time, and when they ask you a question, sometimes you respond to people, oh, I'm just an optimistic person. I'm just a very pessimistic person. Optimism is learned, and pessimism is learned. You teach yourself on what to do. And optimism then increases your dopamine levels. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical. We link it to reward and motivation. Whenever you feel good, that's dopamine. So the more optimistic you are, the more good you feel. I went through, 2 years ago, I went through a very low point in my career. After my 4th fight, I never got a call about another fight. It's been months since my last fight. I didn't know when my next fight was going to be. I'm Saudi Arabia's first professional boxer, so they have no one else to call. But they're not calling me, they're not asking me to fight. I don't know when the fight is gonna be. I don't even know if there will be another fight. I thought my career was over. And so some family you're born with, but also there's the family you choose. I called one of my best friends, his name is Yusuf. He's family to me, he's like a brother to me. And I called Yusuf, I said, Yusuf, I'm going through a horrible period in my life right now. I feel like everything is over. My back's against the wall. I've tried everything. I've tried speaking to everyone. I've tried calling everyone. I don't know when my next fight is. I don't know even if there will be another fight. I feel like my career is over. I wish I could have done this differently, or if maybe I get another chance, I will do that differently. I started just speaking. And then I hear Yusuf laughing on the phone. And I ask him, you think this is a joke? Like, I'm calling you, you're my best friend, you're my brother. And he says, I am so excited for you. He says, I am so happy for you, I am so excited for you, and I can't wait to see what happens. Because every single time you've reached a low point in your life where you thought there is no coming back, where you thought like it's all over, something magical happens, and you reach, yes, you are at an all-time low now, but you reach an all-time high. And we look back in weeks, months, years, we look back and we say, remember when we thought it was all over? Remember when I was calling you thinking my back's against the wall, there is no way out? That's how life works. When you feel like there is no way out, when your back's against the wall and you feel like this is it, something magical always happens and you reach a new high in your life. But from that day, I learned that optimism is learned, because here is that same situation, that same story I'm talking about with Yusuf. And I'm being a pessimist, but he's being optimistic about it. Same story, it's just two different people that think two different ways. And from that day on, every single situation that I'm met with, I always search for the optimistic things to look for. But I use the word search here for a reason. Because the pessimistic stuff, the negative stuff, is going to be laid right in front of you. It's going to be the first thing you see, and it's going to be the first thing you feel. That's your emotional brain. Then comes in your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain. You have to go and take a deep dive and search for what is positive in what you're going through. What can you be optimistic about in what you are going through? And so then that gives you clarity, that gives you composure, that gives you control. And when you are met with situations and scenarios, the best way to be resilient is to create a gap between your reaction and your action. And that's how you become resilient. Thank you.
Ziyad, firstly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was an incredibly inspiring talk that you've given us there that frankly I hope we can repeat to our students one day here at the school. So thank you on all of our behalf. If I may take a liberty for my first question, I just want to check with our audience here. Can you put your hand up if you've ever been punched in the face by a professional boxer? We have one at the back. Maybe there's a conversation to be had after. 2, 3. Wow, more than I thought. 4. We've got feedback a little bit. So just for the hundreds of people here who haven't been punched in the face by a professional boxer, you spoke about resilience being built on 4 elements that for you are like super conscious, right? You're really able to describe the way that you're handling yourself very, very clearly. But when you're in the ring and you're faced with something that very, very few human beings have to handle, and I know that you're undefeated in your pro career, but I'm sure you'll have experienced knockdowns and knockouts. In that moment, when you go down, and we all go down in our own way, are you relying on these taught processes that you outlined to us now? Do you have a conscious moment where you say, the way I'm going to handle the fact that I am on the floor right now is I'm going to go through these conscious steps, or is it something else that's like an animal instinct within you? Does it become a natural reaction? Just talk us through that moment, because very few of us experience that.
So you see, in a fight, there is no time to think naturally. Your brain is in a fight or flight mode, but there is no option of flight. It's only fight. So you have to stay there and you have to fight. So when you get knocked down, what comes to save you is your subconscious mind. And what trains your subconscious mind is visualization. So I have a mental performance coach. And for everyone sitting in the audience today, I always encourage people to go speak to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a therapist, or a mental performance coach, or a life coach. They truly do change your life, because we don't learn to walk alone, and we don't learn to eat alone, or sing or act. Somebody comes and teaches us those stuff. But for some reason in society, we expect ourselves to teach ourselves everything that we can react to perfectly, to everything going wrong. How we react to pressure, stress, fear, doubt, all of that. But there are people who went to universities and PhDs to teach you that. So with my mental performance coach, before a lot of my fights, we'd always sit in a dark room, we'd switch off all the lights, and I would play sounds of a boxing crowd from YouTube, turn the brightness off completely, and I'd start visualizing the fight. And we'd always visualize stuff going my way, and we'd always visualize stuff not going my way. And part of the things not going my way was me getting knocked down. And in my second fight, I got knocked down in the first round. But we'd always visualize a positive recovery. So we'd always visualize, yes, I do get knocked down, but the fight is not over. You will take time to breathe, you will relax, no matter how dizzy you feel. You have to take the 7 count, because you have to get up before 10. But if you get up at 8, the referee might stop you. But I've always seen the champions take a knee until 7. So they just reset their body. So we trained that. I mentally rehearsed that and I visualized it. And so I stayed on my knees until the 7 count in my head. That's before the fight, in that dark room with the sounds on YouTube. And I would get back up and I would win the fight. No matter how. Knock him out, knock him down, win by points. I'm calm, I'm composed. That's how I'll win. And that's exactly what happened in my second fight, even though we visualized that in my first fight, in my professional debut. And in my professional debut, we also visualized things going my way, so me knocking him down. But if he gets back up, usually you see early fighters or immature fighters go crazy after they knock somebody down and they get back up. We had to visualize myself calm, composed, nothing changed, he's still in the fight. If I go crazy, I might get knocked out. even the commentators spoke about that in my professional debut. I knocked him down, he got back up, and I fought so calmly to the point where the commentators said, it's crazy and tremendous how calm he is for such a fighter in his professional debut. He's not going all crazy. I ended up knocking him out then after. But you visualize both. Things going your way, things not going your way. And the more you keep training your mind, to the people in the arena, they think you've just been knocked down for the first time ever. But in your mind, you've been knocked down 100 times. And you've knocked people down 100 times. And you've gotten back up and you've won, and they've gotten back up and you still beat them. Always visualize the positive outcome. So in a fight, there is no time to think naturally. You have to train the subconscious mind on so much. So in the fight, the adrenaline rush is there. You will be dealt with embarrassment, stress, pressure, worry, doubt, fear, because you're fighting in front of 25,000, 30,000 people. You have to just let it flow naturally, but you have to train how naturally you will let it flow.
And for all of us here, one of the key things that everybody's talking about, frankly, here at BISR and during the course of this conference is what we can do to support sport in the kingdom. I think we're all conscious of where we are here in our work with young people. There is a keen ambition for what the kingdom wants to achieve. We have the World Cup on the horizon. We have Vision 2030 before that, but we know that at grassroots level, even for us as a school, and we have 7 campuses and over 3,000 students, the opportunities for grassroots competition, collaboration, and opportunities for young people remains limited. And if you wouldn't mind, what advice do you have for us all here as those who are involved in education for how we should be approaching the development of sports at grassroots? You've had incredible opportunities and have grabbed those with both hands, but we get the sense that we need to be doing more for our young people, and in some quarters we're struggling with understanding exactly how we should do that, and within international education particularly, what's our role within the broader kingdom's vision to provide these opportunities for young people?
I think there are many key things you could do, but I will bring them down to 3 main key things. First of all, encourage participation. You know, we often fall in love with something after we try it, and we usually sometimes maybe hate it before we try it. So encourage participation, especially the variation in what you can participate in. When I was a kid, I was always encouraged to participate in that sport, this sport, and I've tried many, like many of us here today could have done. And then I found one that I really liked. I found one that I really loved, but even though I was starting for another reason, or I was starting for another sport. So encouraging participation is one of the key roles that you could do to really develop the ecosystem. The second thing is to speak to them about the idols that they could have locally. Because when I was coming up, and I've spoken about my story a lot before, but what made me stick to boxing, because it's another thing completely to start boxing, and it's something else completely to stick to it. Because when you get punched in the face the first time, you're like, I'm done, I'm not sticking to it. But what made me start the sport and what made me stick to it was when I would go home to look for idols, local idols to look up to, local talent to look up to, and I would go on Google and search Saudi Arabian fighter, nobody would come up. Local Arab fighter, I'd only find the Arab fighters who were born abroad, raised abroad, around the equipment, around the training, around, you know, that culture that already exists when here it didn't exist. So I said I want to be that. I want to be that person who, when the young ones who are going to come after me, who are going to do it better than me, who are going to do it bigger than me, they will only do it because when they search for someone to look up to, they're going to find a local talent who's done it exactly the same way that they have to. All of a sudden, it doesn't feel impossible. So we have the swimmers, we have the footballers, we have the basketball players, now we have the boxers, not only myself, we have a few others too that have come up now. And so we have the tennis players too. So now in every single sport, we have champions, we have medalists. And that's what Vision 2030 did. So what I say when I always speak about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and what Vision 2030 did was it empowered those who were standing not at a red light, not at a green light. We didn't have that yet. It was a yellow light. Because we were ready. I was ready to fight. I've been training for years. The swimmers were ready. The tennis players were ready. They had champions, the horseback riders, the champions were ready. They just didn't have a green light. What Vision 2030 did was it came and gave that green light and gave that empowerment. What do you need? What do you want? Which competitions do you want and which competitions do you need? Contrary to many's beliefs, the last thing Vision 2030 did was baby anyone. They never spoiled anyone, they never babied anyone, because they knew the responsibility that will come with being an athlete for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, being a talent for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, being a personal figure for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I'm not just a boxer when I fight. I'm not just an athlete, I'm a figure. I'm a spokesperson, I'm a representative. I change conceptions on people, people's conceptions on the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what they might think or what they might say about Saudi Arabia. So the second one is really to just find local idols. The third one is the spirit. Is to make them do it for much more than just themselves. Because there will come a time, not just in sports, but we've all went through it. For a fact, I know that we've all went through it here, where in the middle of our journey, we just want to quit. We just don't want to do it. And what keeps us going is who we're doing it for, what we're doing it for. And when it's a lot bigger than just ourselves, then it becomes so much easier to keep going. So make them do it for their values, their local traditions, their culture, their family, their religion. Make them do it for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Make them do it for making your grandmother proud, which is huge in our culture here. Your grandfather proud, if you're lucky enough to have them both. Your parents, you know. So when you make them do it for something so spiritual, it becomes a lot stronger. So then I feel like these are the key roots or the key roles you could give the ecosystem to see champions who will do it much, much bigger and better than myself and many other talents in the kingdom are doing it today.
Thank you. We all know that Saudi sport is growing fast, both across men's and female sports as well. So what do you think are the most effective ways to make sport accessible, regardless of gender, background, location?
The building of gyms. The more gyms we have, the more, I'm not talking about weightlifting gyms, I'm talking about sport-specific gyms. We need more sport-specific gyms. But there is something that I've seen in many countries that I'd love to bring to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and I feel like that will encourage the participation in sports and the growth of sports in the kingdom, is big sports centers. I don't want to just see the boxing gym, the tennis courts, the basketball gyms. I want to see big sports centers that has everything there. So when you play tennis, you could see the basketball people. When you play basketball, you could see the swimmers changing. When you see, when you're in boxing, you could see the judo. You could see all the people. When you see them all training, it encourages you to discover new sports. But then it also encourages the leadership to dive more into these specific sports that they see high interest in, or they see any interest in. So then they start building the sport-specific gyms that come off alone. So we first start with the sports centers. That's what I would love to do. Start with the big sports centers. Create a community. Athletes who come together, despite their sports. Create that community of you know, this team, that team. You know, sometimes there's even a competition between the boxing team and the swimming team. They have nothing to do with each other. But who's going to achieve more for this training center or for this club? Then we could really start building on the new sports that we bring into the kingdom. For example, I don't know if you guys have heard, but cricket in Saudi Arabia is starting to become a huge thing. They've just signed a very big deal with an Indian and Pakistani partners to have the Cricket World Cup in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and to build a full-on stadium, cricket stadium here. And if you don't know about cricket, cricket needs a very special grass, and the stadium needs to be very unique to its players. So when they did that, the amount of people from Saudi Arabia who signed up for cricket was tremendous. So I think that's what we need to do to discover new sports in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Just bring in the unique ones that you think people won't be interested in, and you'll be so surprised, because no one was interested in boxing in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But look at it now.
Yeah, thank you. And as a former director of sport, PE teacher, I kind of echo exactly what you're saying there. And if you build programs, you build ecosystems at your school, because one sport may be accessible or the focus of a group of students, but it may actually not be the favourite sport of others. But a completely different one may be the inspiration that inspires them to play sport for life. And that, yeah, you just mentioned it there, in a time a facility that helps support that is really powerful. Now, I know you've got a plane to catch, so I'm checking the time now. So really appreciate all of your insightful words, and I think everyone here today can recognise what you've been talking about, because it hits home as an individual, and so I think we all should show our due appreciation for your attendance and your words today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was amazing, honestly. Of course. Thank you, guys. Thank you again.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This finishes this first session. If everyone can walk out and follow these through these doors to some refreshments, snacks, water, coffee, etc. Before the first session starts for the afternoon on the workshops in approximately 10-15 minutes. Thank you.